Hi, my name is Pat O'Connor and welcome to the third video in my series about AI training. This video will cover tips for interviews, and these are the initial interviews before you join a company. And it was very surprising to me that these are bots. They're not the HR department. These are automated models that are trying to assess your judgment. So if you are applying to be a generalist like I am, where you don't have any specific type of specialty that you're interested in applying for specifically, the questions may be general. And if you start to hesitate, they may start drilling down on that point. So you need to be careful with the bots. Be careful of what you say, because you're not going to get a second chance. This is your interview for the company. There may be follow-up assessments, but this is the thing that if you don't do well on this, you may not be able to go any further. I don't know. I'm not in the HR department to make those kind of judgments, but it will certainly be a factor. So the bots I've run into are attractive young women. I don't know why, but that seems to be the choice for these companies, to pick good-looking women to do the interviews with somewhat robotic-looking eyes. So don't let that distract you if you're a young man. You'll get advice to check your microphone. You don't need a separate microphone in front of you. Your laptop or your phone, built-in microphone is fine. You want to make sure you have a secure internet connection. If it's one of these general ones, make sure you have a quiet spot. If you have pets, you might want to lock them out of a room, and maybe then even lock them into a different room that the barking is not going to be heard during the interview. Because if anything is garbled, the model may misunderstand you and go off in a whole different kind of trajectory that's going to ruin the interview, but that's the only shot you're going to have. If you get disconnected, you may want to try refreshing or logging back in, and you may be able to pick up the conversation from where it left off. That happened to me, and I had to log back in, and the bot was there waiting for me, which was great. If not, I would contact the company and explain that the internet connection failed, it dropped. Could you please have a second chance? And they may allow that because of technical issues. But they'll tell you to check. I would prepare ahead of time. I would know something about the AI world. Know what an LLM is, large language model. Know what a hallucination is. It's when the prompt, sends back garbage. They call them lies, but they were fed misinformation, so that's the misinformation that they repeat. So that's called hallucination. So be aware. Just know what a model is. You may go in, use Chat GPT a couple of times. Go in, ask it ask it questions, look at the answers. Just be aware, if you're coming in for an AI trainer position, what they do. And I covered that in the welcome message as well as the first couple of videos. So if you skipped over those and went straight to this one, you may want to go back, because all of this information, at least to me, is very important in succeeding in this job. So prepare ahead of time, know something about the industry. My bot interviews have been 10 minutes when I was applying for a generalist job. Like, okay, I want to come in and write prompts. I want to come in and be a content reviewer. Those kind of interviews, it was like 10 minutes. Specialized, I was an undergraduate, having an undergraduate degree in biology, which was an awful long time ago. But I thought that I would try for a job that required some type of biology knowledge because I like science. I've kept up with some of the changes. And though that interview went 20 minutes, and that was a disaster because they kept asking about things that perhaps when I was a biology major many, many years ago, they hadn't discovered yet. And the model kept coming back into it. And I kept saying, I don't know, I don't know. And she kept returning to the same subject. And there's nothing I could do. And you will have a timer on the screen and it'll count down. So it will tell you how much time you have left. And I was like, I was just holding my breath for that 20-minute specialist interview to be over with because I knew I was sunk. But I would be very good at validating information on the science questions. It's just I didn't know the particular topic that model tended to focus on, mitosis or meiosis or some such thing, which I knew about, and that actually did exist years ago. But I'm just saying that the length of the bot interview may depend on the specialty. Speak clearly, if they misunderstand you, it may put them off on tangents. You might want to have a pen and paper next to you just to take some notes in case they come back to it. Because I made that mistake. Because in this biology one, I would say, I don't know. And they would give me the right answer. But then you're under stress. And, 3 minutes later, they would come back and ask the same thing. It was like, I don't know. I already told you I don't know. But if I had jotted down the right answer, I could have come back like, hey, yeah, I know it. So I do suggest that you have pencil and paper there and you're prepared to take notes during these if you receive feedback and it bounces back to you again. I had 3 or 4 of these about the same topic, and it was at the point where it was just ludicrous, but I didn't get the job. So that's about it for the interviews. Again, all of my in-person interviews have been with bots. So just be prepared, having a quiet place. They'll say dress as you would for a regular interview. Some of these you'll put in the application and immediately the bot will come up and say, okay, now, and I'm sitting in the living room in my shorts and t-shirt and with the laptop on my lap. And so it's like, okay, I'll go ahead with this interview. And I have 6 applications into one company now where that situation may have arisen where I had the laptop at an angle in my lap and I did the bot interview. And I don't know how it affected my chances because I'm waiting to hear. Hopefully I will get 1 or 2 of those projects. Okay, I do have a website that reinforces some of this information, and it has blogs that will also relate my experiences and give tips and warnings about what to do, what not to do. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, please follow. I still have a few more in this series. So thank you, and I will see you later. Bye. Hi, my name is Pat O'Connor, and this is the second video, if you count the welcome message. So in case you missed that, I'm going to just repeat a couple of things that I said in there. These videos are going to focus on AI training. If you're an engineer and you're watching these, some of it may be applicable to you. But as a general rule, I'll be talking about not infrastructure things, but creating data sets for large language model, LLM creators. that they will then feed into their model to train them. So there can be audio, visual, like ask the model to what happened at the 10-second mark in a video. The audio, carry on a conversation with the model and make sure they can understand different accents and that type of thing. You can have step-by-step reasoning tests. You can have pattern recognition. There's just an unlimited number of things. And some of them you try and make the model fail. Some of them you will evaluate the answers that they give to a prompt that you wrote, and then rate which one has the better answer and why. There's a lot of those around. So you can get paid per task or per hour. So one thing you have to be aware of, that the payment may be based on an estimated time that it would take someone to complete a task. And if you're slow, or if they underestimate that amount of time, you will have uncompensated time. For example, if they estimate it may take someone an hour and a half or 2 hours to write a prompt that will effectively have the model make a mistake. So they may say 2 hours, and that's what your pay will be. They may say, okay, your base pay is $30 an hour. So for this task, we will pay you $60 an hour because we think it will take 2 hours to do. Well, if it takes you 3 or 4 hours, too bad. You have to either work faster or accept that that is just part of the job. That if you're paid by the hour, it's great. If you're paid by the task, you're going to have uncompensated time, and it's just part of the game. Please read your payment. When they accept you into a project, they'll say, this is how we're going to pay you. I made the mistake of not reading it because I just thought, well, everything will be fair. And just to throw this in, I was on a project where I was an editor, and there were writers, and we had to onboard the ones, we had to mentor them. We were paid an hour for mentoring time. When the project started, they had up to 10 retries to write a prompt that would fail the model effectively. And so that was okay. We could let them run 10 times. But then they kind of changed the rules in the middle of the project, and it was like, don't let them do more than 2 times. And one of the clauses that we agreed to when we joined the project was that if the writer dropped out, we were paid nothing. So they had to create a project a prompt that would be accepted by the client. So you could work hours. You have an hour of mentor time. Usually your first feedback to them, that might be 45 minutes or an hour, because you're very precise, because some of the guidelines are very particular and you have to make sure that everything's aligned. And then they could, when it started, have up to 8 subsequent retries, and you might spend 10 minutes on each of those. So that may all add up to 3 or 4 hours, where if the writer decides to drop out just because they're frustrated, and it may not be a reflection on you, you don't get paid. So I would suggest be wary of those projects if you're editing. It's tough. It cuts into your ability to pay your bills. So anyway, so that's, if you're a writer, it's per task or per hour, or editors. I think QA people that check the tasks may be based more on the time it takes for them to check or they may also be task or hour. I'm generally an editor on these, although I have been a writer in some circumstances. So when you join, you also, if you send in your application, you might send it in for writer, editor, QA, quality assurance position, and there's also something called specialty domain specialists. And that's plus or minus in terms of putting that on your application. Say you have a master's degree in linguistics and you put that on your application. All right, I'm applying for a linguistics position. You may get buttonholed into just doing linguistic positions and not being able to work on the generalist positions that don't take specialized knowledge. And so you might be sitting around waiting for a project for a while. So you'll have to weigh the pros and cons of that. It depends on how often a linguistic need comes up. I don't know. I just read chat groups where people have been waiting a long time to get onto projects. They tend to pay more because there's specialized information, but there may be scarcer projects. So I am a generalist. At that point, you can work on pretty much everything but the STEM projects, which require, the science, the technology, the mathematics type of backgrounds. If you see a listing and it says expert, they are looking for someone with a master's degree or a PhD. If they're legal ones, they usually want degree lawyers, JD in the US. Medical ones, they can be working for, looking for MDs, sometimes nurses, and they will pay accordingly. Those jobs pay very, very well, per hour. So if you're one of them in one of these professions, this domain specialist, you can make quite a good living doing this, although you're probably making quite a good living anyway. But it's great. Again, you're part of the revolution. You're making a difference. You're helping to ensure that the data that gets delivered to the common folk, like, please tell me why my side is hurting. And so if you're an MD, you can give valid answers to that rather than having the model get their information off the internet and then, repeating that type. So there is a nice, useful, good for mankind purpose in doing these tasks. There may be time between projects for everyone because companies like Mindrift and Outlier have to wait for clients with the big models to suggest projects to them. They may come in and say, okay, I want 1,000 prompts and answers in such and such type of scenario. And so that may be a pilot test. And then if they like the results and they want to move forward, maybe they'll order 10,000, evaluated prompts. So that's how it goes. Projects can be short, projects can be long. It all depends on what the client wants. And that can lead to a lot of confusion at the beginning because a client, based on the prompts that we deliver at the beginning, may start tweaking the guidelines. Okay, so you have to stay as a writer, as an editor, you have to stay current with what the guidelines are, and they can start tweaking them, every day at the beginning till they start fine-tuning and narrowing the scope of what they're looking for. So that's one thing to be careful of, that it's a changing environment based on the client's needs. And there may be lags between projects, so everybody in the admins will tell you, don't rely on this as your sole income. If you need, a steady paycheck, this may not be it. Everything that I do is freelance and remote. So it's great because you can have a full-time job and do these at night. There's usually no requirement that you have to clock in, that you have to do a certain amount of hours. You can work on multiple projects. If you're within a company, they don't really care, is my experience. Nobody really cares for the most part if you are working for multiple companies. It's kind of expected because they know there's legs between projects. So the more eggs you have in your basket, the better off you are. You may love working for one company, but then all of a sudden there's a drought and there's no projects, and you can't go on that vacation that you were hoping you could go on. So keep it in mind. I strongly recommend applying to multiple companies. I strongly recommend accepting tasks that may show up, inviting people to join once you're already on board a company. That's how you'll get aware of new projects that are available. You'll get an email, or there's chat groups. Mindrift uses Discord, Outlier uses Discourse, and projects may be announced there. All of a sudden, you may see your name on a channel, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm on that project now. That's good. So you go in and you read the guidelines and you can start working. Sometimes, again, the client will come in, they'll have an urgent need. The admins don't have time to send out emails to everybody, so boom, your name goes on the okay list for a channel and you're on the project. So that's what this video is just stressing. Be versatile. Don't depend on one company, one project. The pay can be very good, and I'll get into some of that later. But read the payment agreement. Again, be wary if they say, okay, this is one, you're going to be mentoring, oh, the rate's really high because these are hard projects. But hey, the writer may also get really frustrated because they're not getting compensated for all the time they're spending. It could be, paid per task and not paid per hour. So they may be spending endless hours trying to get a model to fail when they first start. You get better at it. You learn the weaknesses and you learn how to exploit them. But it can be quite frustrating in the beginning and before it turns into fun. All right, I will get together with you again. And if you enjoy these, please follow. Please subscribe. My website URL is in the description of this video. So I will see you later. Thank you. Bye.